School board meeting, governance training and work session to order. Tanner, please call the roll.
Yes. Buffalo.
Here.
Campson.
Here.
Clanton.
Present.
Gabriel.
Present.
Jordan. Here. And Martin.
Present. Okay, now we need to allow.
Yeah, Ms. Bazine, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can.
Ms. Bazine is requested to participate in today's meeting from a remote location by electronic means. In order for her to do that, we have to establish a couple of things on the record for the board's minutes, and the board has to vote to approve her participation in that manner. So I'm going to ask Ms. Bazine a couple of questions, and then I'll turn it over to the clerk to hold a roll call vote. A vote of yes or its equivalent will be a vote to allow Ms. Bazine to participate in today's meeting from a remote location by electronic communication. Ms. Bazine, I understand that the request has to do with a personal matter. Will you state for the record what that personal matter is?
Yes, I am in the hospital with my father who's undergoing a procedure.
And you also need to state for the record the remote location. I take it it's in a hospital. Is it here in Norfolk or some other city?
No, I'm sorry. I am at BB Medical Center in Lewis, Delaware.
All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to the clerk to hold a roll call vote. Again, a vote of yes or its equivalent is a vote to allow Ms. Bazine to participate in today's meeting via electronic communication.
And Ms. Basine, I just need you to restate the name of the facility. I caught half of it. I apologize.
I'm sorry, you need me to restate what?
The facility that you're at, medical center. I didn't catch
Oh,
the
I'm
first
sorry.
part.
It is BB Medical Center. That's BEEDE, Lewis, Delaware.
Thank you. Okay, but Buffalo,
Yes.
Campson,
Yes.
Clanton,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Jordan, and Martin.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on a second. We're supposed to take a motion.
No, there's no need.
Okay, all right, good. Okay.
We're
Okay.
going to begin with our closed session. Can I get a motion to go into closed session?
That we go into closed session.
Seconded by Mr. Jordan.
I'll take it. Move that members of the school board go into a closed session for the purposes which are set out in subsection A of section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the school board of the city of Norfolk pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A1 of the Act. The subject of this portion of the session is to begin the annual evaluation of the division superintendent for the coming year as required by Virginia Code Sections 22.1-60.1 and 22.1-253.13:5, related guidelines of the Virginia Board of Education and/or related provisions of the superintendent's contract, consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where discussion in open session would adversely affect the school board's negotiating or litigating posture, and consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsections 2.2-3711A7 and 8 of the Act. The subject of this portion of the session is that set out above in subsection A of the motion. Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan? And Martin.
Aye. Okay. We have headed to executive session. Thank you.
A resolution certifying the executive meeting of the School Board of the City of Norfolk in accordance with the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act, whereas the School Board of the City of Norfolk has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote, and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the School Board of the City of Norfolk that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore it be resolved that the School Board of the City of Norfolk hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the executive meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the executive meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the School Board of the City of Norfolk. Basine?
Do we confirm? She'll be
Okay.
back?
Basine?
Aye.
Okay. Buffalo?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan? And Martin?
Aye. Okay, there's going to be about 5 minutes, as I said, for the AV to cut out.
Yeah, we have the power down.
Right, so we're going to continue with our governance training for today. It is open to the public. We're here at the Central Administration Building, but it will not be live streamed. Session.
Move that we go into closed session.
Second.
Okay, we'll go with Mr. Clanton seconding this time.
Basine is able to hear us. She's joined us now.
We're going to have a
Move that the members of the school board go into a closed session for the purposes which are set out in subsection A of section 2.2-3. Oops, wait a minute, Jack. Let me go back. I forgot you added something. I'm sorry. I added something to the motion from the last meeting that I need to read the right paperwork. Move that the members of the school board go into a closed session for the purposes which are set out in subsection A of section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the school board of the City of Norfolk pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A1 of the Act. The subject of this portion of the session is to begin the annual evaluation of the division superintendent for the coming year as required by Virginia Code Sections 22.1-60.1 and 222.1-253.13:5 related guidelines of the Virginia Board of Education and/or related provisions of the superintendent's contract. B, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the school board of the City of Norfolk pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A1 of the Act. The subject of this portion of the session is the discussion of personnel on today's personnel agenda. And C, consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where discussion in open session would adversely affect the school board's negotiating or litigating posture, and consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsections 2.2-3711A7 and 8 of the Act. The subject of this portion of the session is that set out above in subsection A and B of this motion. Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel? Aye. Jordan?
Aye.
And Martin?
Okay, thank you, everyone.
We're doing Mr. Phillips first, right?
Out of closed session?
Second.
Who seconded it? Is that you?
Is that Clanton?
Mr. Clanton. You were down low. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. These mics are hot.
Okay, a resolution certifying an executive meeting of the School Board of the City of Norfolk in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Whereas the School Board of the City of Norfolk has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the School Board of the City of Norfolk that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore it be resolved that the School Board of the City of Norfolk hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the executive meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the executive meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the School Board of the City of Norfolk. Ms. Bazine is not present now and unable to certify the meeting. So Ms. Buffalo?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
And Martin.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Now we're going to begin the work session portion of our meeting. We have item 5.01 on the agenda, titles 1, 2, 3, and 4 plans. Can I have Dr. Cito come up, please? Good evening, how are you?
Hi, good evening. I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. We'll go ahead and start when you're ready.
Okay. You know, my stuff, I just got to get myself organized here a little bit. Okay. Are we at? Oh. Good evening, Chairwoman Dr. Martin, Vice Chair Ms. Buffalo, Dr. Birdsong, and school board members. Today, I'll be providing a summary of the preliminary Title I application for school year 23-24. The purpose of the Title I grant is to provide supplemental resources to schools in order to assist students in meeting academic standards. Title I funds are also used to support early intervention with our preschool 3-year-old program. Strategic intervention is provided at all Title I schools to support students academically and behaviorally. Much of this is achieved through collaboration across all departments on the use of funds and through professional development for staff. The proposed application supports 28 Title I schools. There is a decrease from 29 due to the removal of Mary Calcott as a Title I school. All Title I schools will implement a school-wide program so that all students can receive the supplemental supports and use the supplemental resources. The Title I Part A grant supports mostly staffing. However, there are some supplemental funds at school level where principals have the discretion on how to spend the funding. The Virginia Department of Education shared with all divisions to use level funding for 23-24 school year. Therefore, our preliminary funding is $16,411,204.34. Norfolk Public Schools ensures that Title I funds are used in direct support of Title I schools to meet the needs of students, families, and the community. As this slide shows, 95% of funds in this application are in direct support of schools through school-level allocations and initiatives such as instructional coaches, family engagement, and support for students in transition who are considered homeless. This is an increase from 92% last year. Furthermore, funding is used at the school level to support our preschool 3-year-old program. The majority of funding is spent on staffing at the school level. In the proposed Title I application, school-level budgets are maintained at level funding, with some having slight increases. In collaboration with principals and executive directors, it was decided all schools will have a Title I teacher or Title I teacher assistant to support intervention and a Title I family engagement specialist to support Title I measurable goals and objectives at a minimum. Family engagement is a required set-aside for the Title I grant. After formulating the base level of support, each principal uses their comprehensive needs assessment to create their school improvement plan and their Title I spending plan for the school year. Principals complete a staffing survey in March, then the principal's requests were discussed and decided upon with the executive directors based upon alignment to their school improvement plan and the division's strategic plan. This is all preliminary until the actual allocation is received in late fall. However, This allows schools to start the year with funding to support school improvement efforts and family engagement. Based upon needs for next school year and beyond, a preschool coach is being requested through the preliminary Title I application. The position directly supports teachers in schools through coaching cycles using class observation tools. The staff must be a class certified observer, and they have to recertify annually. Next year is the first public reporting year for class data. Therefore, each school's average scores on their class observations will be public knowledge. Furthermore, this coach will support professional learning communities, data analysis, and intervention. NPS is required to implement and evaluate a unified measurement and improvement system for all preschool classrooms, which includes the Virginia Kindergarten Readiness Program and the Virginia Literacy Partnership. Furthermore, a vetted curriculum must be used also. NPS currently has the second largest preschool program in the state and the largest in this region. Additionally, we were the first division to have a 3-year-old program paid out of Title I funds. And for a while, we were the only division that had 3-year-old classrooms, which is very exciting and something to celebrate. Once the actual allocation is received in the fall, principals use their updated school improvement plan to write their Title I school spending plan. The plan details specific purchases that principals need to make to support their school improvement goals and the measurable objectives on the Title I application. This is reviewed by the executive directors and myself, the Senior Director of Early Learning in Title I, for alignment and allowable expenses under Title I Part A. Once both plans are approved, principals use the Title I handbook that provides them with a timeline for spending and other guidance needed to support Title I best practices, compliance, and regulation. The Early Learning and Title I Department provides significant amount of professional development each month for Title I staff. Furthermore, a school-wide Title I presentation was created and provided to schools to ensure all staff understand fully the purpose of Title I Part A and how we use our funds. This also allows staff to provide feedback. There are also monthly principal professional development sessions related to Title I and preschool programming. This helps to ensure principals have what they need at their fingertips as they lead their schools to success. Monthly professional development is also provided to family engagement specialists. This year's focus was on creating a shared vision and definition for family engagement and attendance, literacy, and mathematics. Instructional coaches receive direct support from curriculum and instruction. Lastly, Title I teachers participate in monthly professional development sessions in collaboration with curriculum and instruction and Title I on literacy and mathematics. So they are also a part of the work with the reading specialists and math specialists to get professional development, which we're very excited about also. Data. To ensure the program is meeting the needs of our students and families, the Assessment, Research, and Accountability Department and the School Improvement Coordinator work with the Early Learning and Title I Department. Over the year, our subgroups are presented in division-level data presentations, and this data is monitored regularly with our assessment associate. Furthermore, to ensure compliance to all federal and state guidelines, the Early Learning and Title I Department uses Title I Crate to gather and monitor all compliance documents that are required at the division and school level for Virginia Department of Education. The division-wide Family Engagement Committee meets quarterly. This committee has filled out 3 surveys and completed several jot tables so that information from all Title I schools guide the decisions and the supports that we make in the application. This committee will continue to grow in school year 23-24 to include more community partners. Also, there's a preschool steering committee that meets at least 5 times throughout the year to support our preschool age programming, continuous improvement plan, and NPS strategic plan. Another example of sharing and gathering feedback is the facilitation of a citywide presentation, which occurs at the beginning of May with a public survey. Feedback received is used to make adjustments to the application as needed. And I'm here to answer any questions that you all might have.
Questions, comments?
Thank you for the presentation, I kind of talk about this every year, so forgive me. So I'm still trying to follow the SMART goals that are in the comprehensive school improvement plans and how they translate into the measurable objectives that we have in this Title I application overall, and also trying to determine how we did last year. So I think when I was looking at, for example, one of the goals, the first measurable objective, I think was the same measurable objective last year. So how do we know how we did last year when we were reviewing this, and that would result in having the same measurable objective this year? Does that make sense?
It does. So what we decided to do, because we do have the strategic plan, is actually Mr. Brady and I met and we talked about what should the measurable objectives be, what should we align them to and focus them on. So these are now fully aligned with the strategic plan. So if you look at the first measurable objective, it's in reading, and we're focusing this year on pass rate instead of combined rate because the strategic plan is doing so. We also looked at the percentages of expected growth for the strategic plan, and that's what you'll also see in the measurable objectives. So that's just one example.
Right. So like if you look at if you were to pull up one of the school's comprehensive school improvement plans, and they have a SMART goal, and just my review of some of them, they have very ambitious SMART goals in terms of what would have been accomplished in a year. So you could look at one school and they may say that they'll improve by 30 points in reading from September of this school year to June of this school year. So I'm trying to follow at the comprehensive school improvement plan level, where they have established SMART goals for the individual school. And then in this application, we are providing, or the federal government is providing resources to support achievement of those goals. How do we see district-wide and school by school how the resources that we approved last year and the resources that we are requesting this year is impacting the outcomes that the individual schools have established for themselves based upon their comprehensive needs assessment?
So absolutely. So all of the schools are using their comprehensive needs assessment specifically for their schools to set their particular goals. They also have their action steps clearly aligned that we can noticeably see in that. And then what we do is during their monthly data meetings, we are there alongside the executive directors to see how they're moving forward in those particular action steps. And then our division-wide data for Title I is reported during the presentations typically that are done by Dr. Pohl and by our subgroups also. And then we also meet regularly with the principals. So I have ongoing meetings with the principals quarterly throughout the year to look at their spending and the impacts that it's having. We're also supplemental, so we are like the cherry on top. So we follow the work that's going on Tier 1 to support the schools, and then my department's role is to come in with those additional supports outside of what the division is already providing. So we're looking at this through the lens of we're one of the largest Title I districts in the state also. So we're looking at, we know this supplemental support will really help us move our strategic plan forward also because of that. Yes.
Dr. Cito, also and Mr. Jordan, also through the CSIP process, there's a Title I piece to Title I schools as well. So Dr. Cito and her folks also review the comprehensive school plans before they're approved division level to make sure there is alignment to the the Title I plan, as well as for their spending plans through the year.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to figure out at a board level, how do we
So
and see the,
let me get there too. So one of the things Dr. Cito is doing is working with ARA to look at 3-year trend data over the Title I goals so that we can start to see that a little bit more clearly. Because you probably noticed in the Title II, III, and IV, we actually report last year's goals and results in those title grants, but that's not a part of the Title I grant. So we're looking at a way to better report that to make sure that what we're putting in place does have an academic and a social emotional difference with our students and improvement for our students. So really trying to track that better.
right, and just for the board now yield. So, like, I just pulled up one off of the website. So there's one Title I school has a area focus. The focus is science, and it says by June 2023, we will increase the percentage of students in the all students category passing the science SOL assessment from 44% in 2022 to 70%. So that's a ambitious goal.
Say that again, what were the percentages? I
From
apologize.
44% to 70% in science. And so when I see that, and then I'm reading the overall goal for the district, they'll say, 4%, 5%, whatever it is. I'm trying to figure out in my mind and it's just one individual school, but a lot of them have lofty goals like that, how whatever it is at the school level translates into this application. But I appreciate you reminding me that this is a supplemental piece of that.
And one other piece to add to the puzzle, we are in the works of developing a CSIP that is digital and that has a workflow so that it goes through approval paths and can go back and forth easier than paper copies, and edits can be made easier to make sure that maybe we don't have such advantageous jumps if it's not something that's attainable in the process.
Go ahead. Well, so the goal was 70 what percent? For that particular, no, for that one that
For the
Mr.
school,
Jordan
it was
has done what?
44% to 70.
Right.
And is 70 the pass rate?
Yeah.
So perhaps that was what their ambition was, is to have that as the
Pass.
goal that you're
Correct.
reaching
To get
for.
accredited.
You know,
Maybe it was
You
the
should-
only thing that kept them from being
you
accredited.
shoot for the moon, you land among the stars. Sounds like something I would have done. Well, I would have, because you have an
correct.
ambitious goal. A goal's not something that you know you can make. A goal is something that you know you got to get out there and work for. And the goal for me would have been, when my school was unaccredited, my goal was to get accredited, and that was usually 70%.
No, I follow that, but for me in the SMART piece, so if you're talking about over time, if you're saying it's over a 3-year period or a 2-year period, that's one thing, but again, just.
Good thing I wasn't here when you were doing that.
No, you would've
I
got-
would've
no,
been- I
you
would've
would've
been
gotten the
shooting
same thing.
I would have started at the beginning, and I'd be shooting for 70%.
I don't have, my concern is not about shooting for the moon. My concern is, what does the A mean for us in SMART? So if we're saying, we talk about things being attainable. I'm all for pushing forward. We went through all that. We talked about targets before. And then we also, some say the R is realistic, some say the R is results focused. It doesn't matter to me which. What I just want to be able to understand is, if one is shooting for the moon at the building level, then how does that translate up through what we're looking at today, so that we can see whether or not, if they made it, then let's celebrate it. If they didn't make it, and we determined, and when I say we, the central administration, others determined that it was realistic, let's say that they made 20 points instead of 40 points. Then when an application is coming forward, is there some conversation that says that, wow, they made 20 points in 1 year? Is there an opportunity then to dedicate resources and build upon that strength and see them jump even higher the next year? That's what I'm trying to be able to monitor at this level, and not get into all the weeds at the local level and how they determined it.
And I think in response to that too, Mr. Jordan, is when we're looking at this level, we're we're at 20,000 view when we're looking at the division Title I application. What you're talking about is when Dr. Cito is meeting monthly with principals and they're developing their Title I spending plan, they're developing their Title I staffing plan, what supports do they need based off their own data that would drive that work to make sure that their Title I funding for that specific school is being spent to support their specific needs.
That help you, Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, it helps me.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
A little bit anyway.
Any other questions about this portion of the presentation? Okay. Dr. Cito, please proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Brady's up, sorry. Sorry. I didn't have him on my agenda. Good evening, how are you?
Good evening. Doing well. How are you?
Go ahead and start when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairperson Dr. Martin, Vice Chair Ms. Buffalo, Dr. Birdsong, and members of the school board. I'm joined this evening by Mr. Zachary Newman, our Senior Coordinator of World Languages and ESL, to provide an overview of the 2023-24 Title II, Title III, and Title IV grant applications for your review and consideration. These three grants provide federal funding to supplement positions and activities in NPS with the goal of increasing student achievement. The Title II Part A grant, often identified as TPT for Teacher Principal Training, provides funding for professional development personnel and activities to improve the quality of instruction and enhance effective principal leadership to increase student achievement. The preliminary award is over $1.8 million. Under federal regulations, private schools in the city of Norfolk who wish to participate also receive funding, which will amount to approximately $156,000. This slide shows the personnel positions funded by Title II that are involved in delivering professional development in the division. The positions include 3 reading and 4 math specialists who work in the schools, our core content office specialists, the division's PD coordinator, and 3 RTI positions, specialists, which are moving from 11-month to 12-month positions. Additionally, in order to maintain 12 division-level instructional coaches, one of the positions was transferred from Title I to Title II in last year's grant. The grant also continues to provide a teacher specialist to focus on instructional support for our new teachers, assisting with the Lead Mentor Program, the New Teacher Professional Learning Community, and the New Teacher Institute. On this slide, you can see the numerous professional development activities for teachers and principals that are supported by Title II. Among these is professional development for phonics and early literacy. The grant also funds literacy work across the division for K-12 as we kick off the year at Summer Leadership Institute, working with a nationally recognized expert in reading and writing. We will continue to fund the second year of the Grow Your Own Administrator cohort, who will finish their degrees next summer in 2024. We continue to support professional development opportunities to support our AP and IB teachers, principal development, coaching for new principals and teachers, and continued support for our new teacher induction program. The Title III grant provides funding to support the academic achievement of our English learners while working to become proficient in English and assist general content teachers in becoming more effective in their teaching of ELS students. The preliminary award is approximately $137,000. On this slide, you can see that Title II funds are being proposed to be used to fund the ESL teacher specialist position, along with our Elevation software, which monitors the progress of our ELS students and provides professional development for our classroom teachers. We have proposed transferring the ESL teacher specialist to the Title III grant to allow the division more flexibility to support ELS with programming that isn't permitted under Title III by using the local budgeted funds for Ls. Finally, Title IV, Part A, provides funding for a well-rounded education, a safe and healthy environment, and the effective use of technology. The preliminary Title IV award is over $1.2 million, with the private schools receiving approximately $108,000. This slide shows several positions that are supported by Title IV funds, as well as funding supports for AP and PSAT exams, SAT school day for juniors in the spring of 2024, anti-bullying and suicide prevention materials, the vector bullying reporting system, PBIS, and support for art, music, and world languages. Thank you for allowing me to present the division's Title II, III, and IV grants, and we stand ready to answer any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Jordan.
On the Title II, focused on teacher quality and prioritization of funds. So under the teacher quality, there's a description which identifies the total number of class sections taught, and then the class sections that were taught by properly licensed and endorsed teachers, and the class sections taught by individuals not properly licensed and endorsed.
Yes.
So my first question is, as you look at, and so it said that the division's total is 89.2% classes taught by properly licensed and endorsed, and to attain 100%, you do these other supports. Of the classes that were not taught by property, or the schools that were not taught by property licensed and endorsed teachers, do you have a sense of, are there some schools that are disproportionate than others? I know we receive reports from Human Resources that we look at kind of monthly. What is it that you are seeing in this regard in terms of, is it distributed across the schools, or are we seeing that there are a collection of schools that are within the ones where you don't have properly licensed and endorsed teachers who are receiving the additional supports?
So I think over the last year or two, it's become a little bit more widespread across more schools with the vacancies and the number of long-term substitutes that we have in many more of our buildings now that we're trying to fully staff. There are specific schools that we are tracking that you'll notice is right after that breakdown of the number of classes and the percentage. Then in part one of the box right behind that, we are tracking specific schools as we monitor their ability to fully staff their schools with properly licensed and endorsed. And so you can see there specific elementaries, also middle schools, K-8s that we're following and reporting to the VDOE. And where in the previous grant application we saw some improvement in the percentages of teachers in those schools that are properly licensed and endorsed. In a lot of those schools we saw some declines. See, a couple schools went from maybe percentages in the 90s to percentages in the 80s. There were some drops of a few points here and there at schools, which I think is indicative of the vacancies that we see that are much more widespread now across the division.
Forgive me, are you on a particular page, or because I may be?
Yeah, it's page 32.
Oh, okay.
It's right where you were reading the teacher quality numbers.
Oh, I think I was higher up.
If you continue right into the next next section below that, there's a Roman numeral 1, and it says teacher quality continued.
Oh, I see. I was further up. I see it now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and then part 1, there's a box there where we do continuously track the schools that are identified there.
I see that now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay,
All right,
thank you very much.
thank you.
Up next, we have a discussion of combining the citizens' comments on agenda and non-agenda items. The reason I bring this back up is because just wanted to, so I guess what would be on the table is if we were choose to combine the agenda and non-agenda comments together, we would simply repeal the supplemental policy BDDHZ KDZ and keep the original policy of public participation at school board meetings KDZ BDDHZ. And so one of the reasons I'm bringing this back is to better streamline our meetings so that we don't have people signing up for agenda and non-agenda items and just getting it over with and moving on with our meetings. So I'm open to some discussion.
I feel that it's important for us to hear from our citizens, and they certainly have many channels of communication in order to reach the board via email, through emails directly to Ms. Tanner, who I'll have to say has done an excellent job of funneling emails that go to the clerk of the board, to the board as a whole. So I would like to let individuals know that those emails do come through to us. Public comment is another avenue for them to provide that feedback. I support keeping it separate. If they would like to speak on agenda items, our agendas are posted the Wednesday prior to in a very accessible location on our website. And I would welcome feedback on the items that we are getting ready to have discussion on. Any non-agenda topic items can come at the end of the meeting.
I agree. We have a lot of people that come to look and see what's for the agenda. They're there for a reason, something's happening, but they shouldn't then have to stay the whole time once they finish their thing, and especially if it's being voted on, they should be able to go. And especially, and also when we have children come that are presenting, our younger children, we certainly need to have everyone able to be able to speak. That's perfect, and within the time, as part of the thing, it's running just like everything else. But this way, if you just have people on the agenda, you take care of the agenda first, and then people that have other concerns that are not really attached to the day, but are attached to everything else that's happening, then they are still able to get theirs in without keeping a lot of other people waiting. So I like it. I know we had some rocky times with it back in the fall, but that we worked those out, and now it's all right there, part of the pattern. It's right there in the thing, and it's continued to be streamed just like everything else. So they don't miss out on anything, but it allows the people that are so early in it to do their piece and move on. So I'm in favor of keeping it like it is.
I mean, if we consolidate it, everyone would be heard at the beginning and no one would have to wait.
Well, and that's, yeah, and I can see your point of view. My point of view is that we have an agenda, we follow the agenda, and then we have some other of our parents and citizens who have other things that they're concerned about, and we need to hear about those, and they certainly need to be able to do that. But it allows the rest of the people who were there for that particular agenda to move on out and not have to wait around, especially when they have children. So that's my point of view. I just prefer it to be like it currently is.
Okay. Anyone else?
Oops, sorry. Well, I never thought we had a problem to begin with. You all know that. I favor going back to it being one comment period on agenda, non-agenda items for 3 minutes. Part of my rationale for that is, I think in part to the point that you were making, I think by decoupling it, we create, I think, more stress on the speaker, because now they have to try to figure out, and as chair, you have to try to figure out, if we have a consent agenda and it has personnel, and somebody wants to speak on personnel, then they come to the microphone and start speaking on personnel, then we say, oh, well, that's not it. I mean, to me, it just causes too much thinking on behalf of the citizen to try to figure out what we're doing in terms of our agenda and what item. I also think it streamlines it, because now if you want to speak on an agenda item or non-agenda item, you have 3 minutes in total. With the split one, you can speak 3 minutes on one and 3 minutes on the other. And then as part of what we have been talking about in terms of, governance training, and some of our recommendations that we're still supposed to be working on, is moving to the point where our agendas are known to us and known to the public 10 days, 14 days, whatever days that we decide, beyond the Friday posting process. So I think if, as a board, if we can get to the point that our agendas are known, 10 days to 2 weeks in advance, and that we are better at not having to do add-on agenda items as a result of that, because every time we add on now, what does that mean for the public who saw the Friday agenda thinking that we were going to discuss these things, and then we walk on an agenda item? Now, how does a person sign up for something that the board walks on? But I think in our governance and in our discipline, we can get to the point where that also happens less. So I'm in supportive of one speaking time, 3 minutes, agenda or non-agenda item, and then moving on with our work.
Go ahead.
I also agree with the one speaking time. Agenda, trying to decipher if it's agenda, non-agenda, just a lot. So I agree with the one agenda commenting time, 3 minutes for anyone who wants to speak. Because again, I feel as if it's not on the agenda, it doesn't mean it's not important. So I would like for us to go I think we were at one agenda comment for years. Mm-hmm. And I don't see where it was an issue. So I what is the word I'm looking for? I support going back to one comment. I forgot where I was in a minute. But I do support one comment period.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your feedback.
Well, you didn't hear from Mr. Clanton. And
appreciate it. In the spirit of our governance training, I respect the opinions of my colleagues, but I respectfully disagree. The change was to be respectful of the time and those in attendance. What I've watched and seen as a member of this board are individuals who come in to not necessarily speak about items for which the board is supposed to take action on, but come and talk about a plethora of different things which violate our board norms and our policy, as it means not calling out individuals and other things. And we have not held steady across, which is the responsibility of the individual chairing the meeting to ensure that people do what they're supposed to do. The other piece of that is that folks will come in, use the 3 minutes, and then they leave. They don't see the action of this board. And I think that is utterly, it's disrespectful for the folks that are here, for which we have to take care of the business. And when we bifurcate and separate the two, we allow agenda items, which means that we want to hear from those individuals who want to talk about the things that we have to take action on, because this is what we're supposed to be, a board of action. Not saying that anybody doesn't have the opportunity to come back and speak about something else that isn't on the agenda. By having that at the end of the meeting, it allows the board to take care of its responsibility and this governance body to take care of its responsibility and to vote on those items. We came back, We're streaming it. It's live. Everybody gets their 3 minutes. And actually, in this current situation, they get more time, if need be. But when individuals try to come in and say personnel, and just to try to generally, it's a personnel because it's a personal thing for me, that's not right. Not when we need to take care of actual items that are listed on the agenda, voting on a budget, whatever it may be, take care of policy items. I don't think that that's fair to the individuals, to the students and others who have waited in this room to be able to come in and to speak before this body. So I don't support putting it back into one. I understand, say, oh, it's B1, but I caution in the respect that we have seen what public comment, and we want the individuals, and we have a plethora of opportunities for the community to provide comments, and I think Dr. Gabriel mentioned that through email, and I think that they've sent things they've called us, but this is not the only time for when an individual can come and speak to the board and provide that comment. But I do caution in the respect of going back and placing something into one item. There's going to come a time when we're going to have an end, as we've seen in several other school divisions, where you have individuals who will come in and we have a mixture. I think it becomes confusing when you try to put it all into one item. What are we talking about? The things that we have to vote on, or the things that, because you got a personal situation, or individuals have taken it to another level that may not have even gone through the protocols that we've already had in clear channels of going to an issue that you've had with your principal or your teacher or to the executive director. But now we've gone down there, excuse me, I know I'm doing one of Ms. Camps and things. We talked about it earlier. But now we're bringing it to the board. And we're utilizing that 3 minutes, which we have the freedom of speech. However, those supplemental items were put in place to try to add decency and order. And y'all know I'm about decency and order, making sure that protocol and structure is put in place. And so I will not support a vote on that one. I will respect whatever the will of the board is, but it was done with intentionality to ensure efficiency in our meetings and not to take away the rights of the individuals to come and speak before us. Thank you.
And so moving forward with the vote, if the vote is to repeal the supplement, then that would happen, and then the original participation at school board meetings policy would stand on its own. But if it is to keep the supplement, the next step would be to consolidate those.
Correct.
Okay. Just we're clear on that. Any questions about that?
No, but I accept whatever it is that you just said. But I do want to, if I may, listening to my colleagues. So one, there's the portion of the agenda where, we created the opportunity to hear student performances and so forth. I would be in favor of, in the public comment period, also prioritizing student voice first, so that whatever the format is, that if we have students that want to address the board on matters, that they be granted the opportunity to speak first, so that, one, I think it fits with us prioritizing students, and I also think it provides an opportunity for those students to go study. But I would, at some point, I don't know what the next step is, just have some more conversation around, at least for me, and maybe we can just do it one-on-one. So I agree with Mr. Clanton about, the chain of command and all these things. What I was saying earlier is we should be doing those things, but I think we can improve our communication as a board and as a division to make sure folks know that chain of command. So I just think there's work that we can do to enhance the channels that have been mentioned, so that whatever concerns that we may have about individuals that come to the podium can be enhanced or minimized, whatever the case may be. But during my 11 years? during my 11 years on the
Glorious
board.
11 years.
The last few years, since we've had a fully elected board, it's lightweight compared to some of the things that Dr. Gabriel and I had to deal with, and I thought it was handled fine and well. And so I just think we can put that genie back in the bottle one way or the other and focus on literacy by the third grade. That's what I want to be able to focus on.
I will agree in the respect of prioritizing students, because that was actually going to be the next thing. But I'd still caution us, especially when we know repeat offenders who utilize public comment to attack and weaponize, because as a board, it's also our responsibility to protect our staff, our teachers, and the parents that are here. So when individuals come before this board to weaponize the public comment time against staff members, I think that we have to take action to protect those individuals.
Well,
and we know we got repeat offenders.
Well, our policy calls for a process for doing that. But I think that's what we need to talk about, because to me, to use language to call somebody a repeat offender, then I think we need to clarify what we mean by that. And so, you know, I just think it just opens up a can of worms. And but I do think we empower the chair, as we all know, to address anyone that we think is abusing the system. And I think we need to have a way of being able to address that in a professional way that keeps our meeting going. So.
Okay. Good. All right. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 6.01, we have the.
Well, I'm sorry, I interrupted, but don't we have to vote on that?
No, not tonight. This is just a discussion item.
Oh, because I was thinking because we would have to make a change if it stayed.
Not tonight. We just discussed it. Just putting it on the table.
Thank you.
So up next, we have the personnel docket. Can I get a motion to approve or accept the personnel docket?
I move that we approve the superintendent's personnel report actions transfers.
No, that's
the docket.
We approve.
clarify.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dr. Gabriel.
Just to clarify,
Any
if you
discussion?
the motion is to.
I move to approve the superintendent's personnel docket.
As
Wait a minute,
presented.
that's docket and the supplemental?
And the supplement.
Yeah.
So docket.
And supplement.
Dockets,
Okay.
the plural.
And Dr. Gabriel seconded?
Okay. Buffalo.
Aye.
Hampson.
Aye.
Clanton.
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye.
Jordan.
Present.
Abstention, Dan.
Abstain, yeah, I'm sorry for taking
Okay.
notes. And Martin.
Aye. Okay, thank you, everyone. Up next, we have matters of the board. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I'm like looking over here. Go ahead, Mr. Jordan, and then Ms. Buffalo.
We just finished governance training, and we talked about using the tool that allows us to talk about what we accomplished and what we'll be doing at the next meeting. So before we adjourn, or maybe during this time period, can you just give the board a heads up on what we should be expecting at the business meeting and at the call meeting? I think there's only 2 meetings left, right?
Oh, the draft is current on board docs for the business meeting? Okay.
Yes, for the 21st and
Okay, if the answer is look at the draft agenda, I can accept that.
28th.
Yes, so when we have our agenda planning meetings, Ms. Tanner is completing the agenda under draft agendas. So whatever's in there is current.
And if any of us look at that draft agenda and have feedback to the leadership team, we can still provide that, since the agenda is a draft until we
Yes,
end up adopting it at our
yes, of
at our
course.
meeting.
Yes,
We encourage that.
yes. And anything else? Any other questions?
Just tomorrow's the governor's school's graduation. So we have several of our students who are graduating.
Wonderful.
I do have a question. And looking at the draft, when the recommendation on the student rep, when would we anticipate that?
At the board meeting?
Yes, so in accordance with our timeline, I believe it was in July that I provided that. I may be ready by the next meeting, but I don't want to rush it. But it'll definitely be within the next couple of months, so that the students can start August 1 in accordance with the policy.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. I know it's been a long day. Please be safe driving home.
Thank you.
Adjourned.